On August 11, 1999, Sega of America confirmed that Stoller had been fired. Peter Moore, whom Stoller had hired as a Sega of America executive only 6 months before, was placed in charge of the North American launch. The Dreamcast launched in North America on September 9, 1999, at a price of $199, which Sega dubbed $99.99 for $199. 18 games were available on launch in the US. Sega started recording by selling more than 225,132 Dreamcast units in 24 hours, earning $98.4 million in what Moore called the biggest 24 hours in entertainment real history. Within 2 weeks, US Dreamcast sales exceeded to 500,000. By Christmas, Sega held 31% of the US video game market by revenue. On November 4th, Sega announced it had sold over 1 million Dreamcast units. Nevertheless, the launch was marred by a glitch at one of Sega's manufacturing plants, which produced defective GD-ROMs, where the data was not properly burned onto the disc. Sega released the Dreamcast in Europe on October 14, 1999, at £200. While Sega sold 500,000 units in Europe, by Christmas 1999, sales did not continue at this pace. By October 2000, Sega had sold only about 1 million units in Europe. Though the Dreamcast's launch had been successful, Sony's PlayStation still held 60% of the overall market share in North America at the end of 1999. On March 2nd, 1999, in what one report called a highly publicized vaporware-like announcement, Sony revealed the first details of its next-generation PlayStation. The same year, Nintendo announced that its next-generation console would meet or exceed anything on the market, and Microsoft began development of its own console, the Xbox. Sega's initial momentum proved fleeting as US Dreamcast sales, which exceeded 1.5 million by the end of 1999, began to decline as early as January 2000. Poor Japanese sales contributed to Sega's 42.88 billion yen, which is $404 million, consolidated net loss in the fiscal year ending March 2000. This followed a similar loss of 42.881 billion yen the previous year and marked Sega's third consecutive annual loss. Sega's overall sales for the term increased 27.4%, and Dreamcast sales in North America and Europe greatly exceeded the company's expectations. However, this coincided with a decrease in profitability due to the investments required to launch the Dreamcast in Western markets and poor software sales in Japan. At the same time, increasingly poor market conditions reduced the profitability of Sega's Japanese arcade business, prompting the company to close 246 locations. Moore stated that the Dreamcast would need to sell 5 million units in the US by the end of 2000 to remain a viable platform, but Sega fell short of this goal with some 3 million units sold. Moreover, Sega's attempts to spur Dreamcast sales through lower prices and cash rebates caused escalating financial losses. In March 2001, Sega posted a consolidated net loss of 51.7 billion yen, which is $417.5 million, while the PlayStation 2's October 26 US launch was marred by shortages. This did not benefit the Dreamcast as much as expected by as many disappointed consumers continued to wait for a PS2 or purchased a PS1. Eventually, Sony and Nintendo held 50 and 35% of the US video game market respectively, while Sega held only 15%. Shift to third-party software development from 2001 to 2003. CSK chairman Ezio Okawa replaced Mijari as president of Sega on May 22, 2000. Okawa had long advocated that Sega abandon the console business. Others shared this view. Sega co-founder David Rosen had always felt it was a bit of a folly for them to be limiting their potential to Sega hardware, and Stoller had suggested that Sega should have sold their company to Microsoft. In a September 2000 meeting with Sega's Japanese executives and heads of its first-party game studios, Moore and Sega of America executive Charles Belfield recommended that Sega abandon its console business. In response, its studio heads walked out. Sega announced an official company name change from Sega Enterprises Limited to Sega Corporation, effective November 1st, 2000. Sega stated in a release that this was the way to display its commitment to its network entertainment business. On January 23, 2001, Japanese newspaper Nihon Keizai Shimbun reported that Sega would cease production of the Dreamcast and develop software for other platforms. After an initial denial, Sega of Japan released a press release confirming they were considering producing software for the PlayStation 2 and Game Boy Advance as part of their new management policy. On January 31st, 2001, Sega announced the discontinuation of the Dreamcast. After March 31st, the restructuring of the company as the platform-agnostic third-party developer. Sega also announced a Dreamcast price reduction to $99 to eliminate its unsold inventory estimated at 930,000 units as of April 2001. This was followed by a further reduction to $79 and then another to $49.95 to clear the remaining inventory. The final manufactured Dreamcast was autographed by the heads of all 9 Sega's first-party game studios, plus the heads of sports game developer Visual Concepts and audio studio Wave Master, and given away with 55 first-party Dreamcast games through a competition organized by GamePro. Okawa, who had loaned Sega $500 million in 1999, died on March 16, 2001. Shortly before his death, he forgave Sega's debts to him and returned his $695 million worth of Sega and CSK stock, helping the company survive the third-party transition.